Hello all, myself Priyadarshini, Assistant Professor, PG and Research Department of Biotechnology, JJ College of Arts and Science, Pudukkottai. Today I am going to discuss about the overview of prokaryotic cell. In the content, definition, characteristic feature, structure, components, reproduction, examples. These are all the things what we are all going to learn today. First, let's see the definition. Prokaryotic cells are the cells that do not have a true nucleus or membrane bound organelles. Yes, prokaryotic cells that has primitive nucleus, and the nucleus is not surrounded by the nuclear membranes, and membrane bound organelles will not be there in the prokaryotes. Prokaryotic cells are underdeveloped. It's a single cell microorganism known to be the earliest on earth. Yes, uh, first of all, the prokaryotic cell has emerged and then the eukaryotic cell has been formed. The examples of the prokaryotic cell is bacteria and the archaebacteria, along with the cyanobacteria also. The photosynthetic prokaryotes includes cyanobacteria that perform photosynthesis. Let's see the characteristic feature of the prokaryotic cell. A typical prokaryotic cell that lacks nuclear membrane. Lacks nuclear membrane means the nuclear membrane will not be present. Mitochondria, Golgi bodies, chloroplast, and lysosomes are absent. These are all the organelles that we can see in the eukaryotes, but absent in case of the prokaryote. Likewise, being the primitive, the genetic material is of single chromosome. But in case of eukaryotic chromosome, the histone proteins will be there. But here, the histone proteins are lacking. The cell wall is made up of carbohydrates and amino acids. Yes, cell wall is made up of carbohydrates and amino acids. The plasma membrane acts as a mitochondrial membrane carrying respiratory enzymes. The cell basics of the cell is it has to respire, but mitochondria is not present. That's why plasma membrane that carries the respiratory enzymes for their respiration. This prokaryotic can be divided asexually by means of binary fission, and the sexual mode of reproduction involves recombination like conjugation, transformation, transection. Let's see the prokaryotic cell structure. Capsule. It is the outermost covering of the bacterial cell. Yes, it is the outermost covering of the bacterial cell. It helps in moisture retention. That is, moisture retention means it keep up the moisture and it protects the cell when engulfed. Engulfed means when some organism is attacking, means it has to protect by means of the capsule. By means of the capsule, the attachment of cells to the nutrients and its surfaces also. Next one is cell wall. Cell wall is the outermost layer of the cell which gives shapes to the shell. That is the outermost layer. Cytoplasm. Cytoplasm is the jelly-like compound. It composed of enzymes, salts, and cell organelles. These all the organelles will be floating in the surface of the cytoplasm. It will be in semi-solid like condition. Cell membrane. Cell membrane is the plasma membrane. This layer surrounds the cytoplasm and regulates the entry and the exit of substance in the cells. Plasma membrane here that acts as a entry port. It will support some substance to go inside the cell, and it supports some substance to go outside the cell. And the pili is present. Pili means these are hair-like outgrowths that attach to the surface of other bacterial cells. Then flagella. These are long structure in the form of web that helps in locomotion of a cell. By means of flagella, the cell that will move from one place to other place. Next one is ribosome. Ribosomes, they involve in the protein synthesis. Yes, actually the protein synthesis that happens in the ribosomes. That ribosomes plays a major role in the cells. And plasmids. Plasmids is also present in the prokaryotic cell. Plasmids are non-chromosal DNA structure. These are not involved in protein synthesis. Yes, actually plasmid is extra chromosomal DNA will be present in the prokaryotic cell. Prokaryotic cell diagram. In this diagram, it depicts the absence of the true nucleus and the presence of the flagellum that differentiate from an eukaryotic cell. See here in the diagram, we can able to see the green color substance which is cytoplasm, and ribosomes which is blue in color. Mesosomes is also present. Cell wall which looks yellow in color. Capsule, a nucleoid which doesn't have the nuclear membrane, it's just spread over the surface of the cell. And the plasma membrane is for the regulation of the exit and the entry of the substances. We can see in this diagram. This diagram clearly depicts the presence of the true nucleus and the flagellum. Flagella is for locomotion. You know this already. Components of the prokaryotic cell. We have to discuss in depth about the components. Plasma membrane. It is an outer protective covering of the cell which contains phospholipid molecules which separate the cell from the surroundings. And the cytoplasm, it's a jelly-like substance present inside the cell, and all the cell organelles are suspended in it. Suspended, it concerns the organelles that are floating in the surface of the cytoplasm. Here DNA that acts as a genetic material. Here the DNA will not be in double-stranded, being prokaryotic. The circular DNA will be present along with the plasmid DNA. The ribosomes, the protein synthesis occurs here. Next we shall discuss about the reproduction in prokaryotes. The prokaryotes undergo two types of reproduction. One is sexual reproduction, another one is asexual reproduction. First, let's see the asexual reproduction. Asexual reproduction by means of binary fission. Let's see what is binary fission. The DNA of an organism replicates and new copies attached to the cell membrane. The cell wall starts increasing in size and start moving inwards. The cell wall is then formed between each DNA, dividing the cell into two daughter cells. The cell wall that undergoes constriction so that equally the cytoplasms get separated to form a binary fission. Fission means splitting into two. Again, that two daughter cells will undergo the fission again to form four cells. Likewise, the prokaryotes undergoes the reproduction asexually by means of binary fission. And by means of sexual reproduction is by recombination. Recombination means combination of two different things is called a recombination. Next, in recombination, first of all, let's see conjugation. Conjugation means, let's imagine two cells are closer together. One cell is going to donate its DNA to another cell. Okay, after the separation of the DNA, one cell has to donate its DNA to the another cell by means of a sex pilus. The pilus that acts as a bridge between two cells. By means of the pilus, one of the DNA from the donor, it enters into the recipient. That's called the conjugation. Second one is transformation. Transformation here, how the prokaryotic transformation occurs is, it uptakes the DNA which is there in the outer environment. That is, by means of the plasma membrane. The plasma membrane goes and engulfs the DNA which is present outside the cell by the means of the process called transformation. And next one is transduction. Transduction is also the process by which bacteriophage is involved. We know already the virus that carries the DNA that will insert into the infect the E. coli cells, so that the virus can enter into the eukaryotic cells, and then the virus start replicating inside this prokaryotic cell, and then it will be released out by busting the cell. This what is the transduction. Likewise, the prokaryotic cell that will undergo transduction process. Actually, most of the prokaryotic cell that will undergo the binary fission. That mostly all the prokaryotes that undergo binary fission. Some of the prokaryotic cells that will undergo to the process of the combination of the different things like conjugation, transformation, and transduction to get multiplied. Next is examples of the prokaryotic cell. Prokaryotic cell, mostly all the bacterial cell will comes under the prokaryotic cell, and the archaebacteria will also comes under the prokaryotic cell. And see why the all the bacterial cells is, mostly all the bacterial cells are unicellular and it lacks some of the cell organelles, but it will perform its own function independently, and it doesn't contains any higher complex substances for it. Why? Because it is a simple primitive cell. Archaebacteria will also come under the prokaryotic cell. And next is the cyanobacteria. Usually the cyanobacteria is a BGA, that is blue-green algae, and that blue-green algae, you know that it will prepare its own food by means of the photosynthesis because of the presence of the green color. So cyanobacteria will also be comes under the prokaryotic cell. See, there is a lot of difference between the eukaryotic and the prokaryotic cell. The prokaryotic, even though it is very simple mechanism, the cell will do all its work independently. For example, instead of mitochondria, the plasma membrane itself have the respiratory enzymes, and they are also surviving. But in case of eukaryotics, it has a mitochondria as a separate organelle, being it is a developed cell. Even though it is primitive, it is also performing its function effectively. Thank you.